Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live after Thursday night football. Apologies to our East Coast audience, but had some school things come up. So here we are after Thursday night football, a game in which Josh Allen was sacked 9 times by the Houston Texans. So if you thought that Week 17 game was maybe looking a little easier, the Houston Texans defense looks really freaking good. Will Anderson is an insane football player. So we'll get to that point once we get there. But tonight we are doing kind of a bye-week evaluation, bye-week check-in, kind of looking at some of the areas where the Chargers have been successful this season, where they need to improve. We'll have a playoff conversation as well. And joining me, as always, to do that is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
A little tired. Looking forward to that Thanksgiving break, as everyone in education just loves looking forward to it. I try not to think about it and stew in it, but as it gets closer and tomorrow's a minimum day, you're like, oh, we are this close to that break. But yeah, watching tonight's game, I mean, they're going to get their best from the Texans no matter what, even if, I mean, Stroud will be out there, but even if he weren't, I mean, Mills is clearly capable of at least doing something. And we've seen that firsthand. Was he not the one in the Burkhead game in like his rookie season?
Yes.
Yeah. So, familiar faces all around no matter what. Texans will be given their best in Week 17, followed by possibly the Broncos and their best in Week 18. So, yay.
Yeah, I can't believe we're in a world where the Bills and the Chiefs are not going to win their divisions. Like, one of them, maybe you could have told me before the season, but both of them and the Ravens, I think the Ravens will ultimately end up winning that division. They still play the Steelers twice, and who knows about Aaron Rodgers and his hand situation. But the Bills as a wild card team and the Chiefs is potentially even missing the playoffs. Crazy, man. The AFC this year is absolutely drunk, and it's made it more fun. But at the same time, for the Chargers, like, there are going to be so many different like tie-breaking scenarios at the end of this thing that are going to come into play that hopefully the Chargers are on the positive side of things. But like I said, we'll get to that conversation later. But yes, Thanksgiving break, cannot wait. This time of year for me as a school counselor is all about financial aid and college applications, and my students always wait until the last minute. So like today I did 5 CSU applications with my kids. So it was cool. It was a long day. It was great. Like we have a lot of CSU applicants this year, more than we usually do, which is great. But yeah, that was a lot of work for your boy today.
Yeah, I just realizing it's November, and usually that's, I believe, when those are all due. So yeah, that's sorry, but that's why they pay you, man.
I know. For whatever reason, the universities have decided that the deadline every single year for college applications is during Thanksgiving break. So of course. I don't understand, but on we ride. So
yes,
like I mentioned, here to talk about Chargers bye-week evaluation. Before we get to that conversation, of course, have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. This episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. PrizePicks is very simple to play. Obviously, you just have to pick a more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. And PrizePicks is now able to be played in over 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Very simple to use, a lot of fun. It gets you some extra skin in the game. So definitely encourage you guys to check out PrizePicks. Best way to do that is download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Okay, let's get to this bye week discussion. We're kind of formatting this as a what's working, what isn't, and what we expect moving forward. There are obviously a lot of obvious things for the Chargers that are not working. We're not here to have the Bradley Bozeman discussion. We're not here to have stuff like that. Kind of looking at other things and other areas where the Chargers could potentially tweak some things, heading into week 13 against the Raiders. And we're going to start that conversation with just kind of a general team rankings check-in here.
Yeah, so I thought this was almost a typo at first when I kept editing this. I'm like, wait, 20th, 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 13th, 13th. I don't know how that happens. But right now, just look at the offense and the defense. So by EPA per play and success rate, the offense is 20th overall in EPA per play and 13th in success rate. In passing, they are 20th and 13th. And in rushing, they are 20th and 21st in success rate. So the good news is we were right about the rushing success rate. It could not get worse than it did last year. Not as good as we had hoped, but given the circumstances, a little bit better. Thank you, Kamani Vidal. On defense, far better. I think maybe even far better than some Chargers fans would assume, given the game that we just saw, of course. But they've also had a real great stretch the 3 weeks before that. They are overall 7th in EPA per play and 5th in success rate, 4th and 3rd respectively in passing, and 21st in EPA per play against the rush, and 18th in success rate. So overall, not a surprise. The rush in passing, not a surprise. I think we all would consider, gun to our head, what is the worst aspect of this defense? It tends to be that rushing defense that has been an issue most of the season.
Yeah, we'll talk about a very particular issue that is really the big weak link of the defense here in a second. 21st overall is not horrible. You can work with that a little bit, but last year I want to say the Chargers in EPA per rush were about like 14th or 15th. So even last year the run defense wasn't amazing, but it was definitely fewer explosive runs. That's a big problem this season. And then just one particular problem, which we'll get to here in a second. Chargers on offense, 20th and 13th. Essentially, like, they're pretty successful on a down-to-down basis. And again, if you don't know what the success rate is, it's basically, are you getting on first down? Are you converting 50% of those yards? Second down, 50% of those yards, etc. And then do you convert on third down, fourth down? So 13th in success rate is pretty good. Generally speaking, we would take that. But I do think the overall EPA per play is really where we feel the offensive line issues, because they just do not have the time to generate any explosives downfield anymore. Whereas like in the first 3 weeks when they did have Joe Alt, it was much, much higher. So now the Chargers just have to go about finding explosive in different ways, and hopefully Omari and Hampton coming back can help elevate the EPA per play on offense overall.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine so. Regarding last year, they were 9th in rush EPA on defense and 15th in success rate. So 15th in success rate is maybe where you felt it more.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely a very little explosive runs then, basically, is what that's saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the bad ones. But it sounds about right. So we'll talk about the ways they can fix this, but I don't know where were we at the beginning of the season that the defense would kind of be in this, possibly outside the top 10 kind of defense, and the offense would be maybe pushing into the top 10. The defense has, I think, mostly done its job. Offense, do it for a variety of reasons we'll get into. It just hasn't quite gotten there.
Yeah, I think if you would have told the two of us that through 12 weeks with, Khalil Mack missing time and Deshaun Hand missing time, etc., where would they be at in EPA per play and success? We probably would have said in like the, late teens and, 17th, 18th kind of range. So they've done their jobs. Like you mentioned, it hasn't been pretty at all times, but, again, I think there's a couple things that they need to change, and, some linebacker play needs to improve ideally. And that's been kind of the biggest weaknesses there. But overall, defense, I think, is generally fine. And then offensively, we all know what's going on right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
So evaluating the offense, I think what works here, again, not a huge surprise, but the numbers with the rushing attack are pretty jarring. They are averaging over 4.5 yards per carry when rushing outside of the tackles. So 5.9 to the left. Even without Joe Alt, that number has pretty much maintained a steady rate. It's like one of the main reasons why I am advocating more for like a Trevor Penning at left tackle versus a Jamari Sawyer. 4.7 yards to the right end. So essentially, as long as the Chargers can get to the edges, they're pretty, efficient in terms of the running the football. They're number 2 and number 3 in yards per attempt in that regard. Yak opportunities for Quentin Johnson, Trey Harris, and Ladd McConkey are all pretty successful. All three of them are above average, meaning like top 20 in yak per reception and ESPN's yak score. Trey Harris in particular is really, really successful in that regard. And then Hampton, for what it's worth, is 19th out of 44 running backs in yak per reception. Again, hopefully a big boost once he comes back. A big surprise, which we haven't seen in a while, was the Chargers' ability to come out with 4 receiver sets with 1 running back. That's 10 personnel. They still are the top offense in EPA per play in this personnel package. They just are running it basically like a couple of times a game, whereas in the first 3 weeks, it was like 7, 8, 9, 10 times a game. It sounds counterintuitive to say, hey, go back to the 10 personnel, but it is a way to kind of spread things out a little bit and just kind of mix things up, which I think we'll get to here in a second. And then passing out of 22 personnel. So this was really, really surprising to me. So when the Chargers go a running back, Matlock, and 2 tight ends, they are averaging 0.44 EPA per play, which would be the top passing offense in the league, which is an insane number. And it was something that we made fun of all last season because they were doing like 4 verts with Will Dissly, Scott Matlock, and Tucker Fisk. Well, this is an Oronde Gadsden stat. If you are an Oronde Gadsden truther, if your name is Alex Insdorf, this stat is for you. And I think this has been a really great way for them to find some hidden yardage, get Oronde's confidence going, isolate him in perfect matchups, and really just show defenses like this is a passing unit for us, but at the same time, like it looks like a rushing unit once we bring in all these extra big bodies. But Gadsden has been super efficient in this look in particular.
I wonder how many offenses really do have that difference between them, where in 10 personnel, they're the top offense, but then they go with just here's every fullback, running back, and tight end we've got, and we're also the top passing offense in that regard. So just out of curiosity, it says passing out of 22, and it says 0.44 EPA per play. That is a stupid question, but like you mean that is specifically just the passing offense, not offense overall?
Yes, that is just the passing offense. So I assume that also could include scrambles for what it's worth, obviously for dropback situations. True. But the rushing out of 22 personnel is about league average. So it's not been great. It's better than 21 personnel, which is at the bottom here in a second. But passing with Gadsden out there has been really, really good.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That passes the eye test. That passes the smell test. You just watch Gadsden every time they throw it to him. I'm assuming it's some variation of this. But yeah, strange. I don't know what happened with the whole 10 personnel. Any shot you had that week by week by week in terms of how often they ran it?
It's basically been like once or twice a game ever since Joe Alt has been. When Joe Alt was out there, it was the first 3 games. It was 8 plays, 7 plays, 5 plays in the first 3 weeks, and then 5 plays against the Vikings. The other games, it's been about like once or twice a game.
Okay. I was a little curious about last week, considering a lot of the discourse was the tight ends and fullbacks weren't out there. So I was a little curious, like if it was anything different last week, if they tried to go back to that. It failed miserably, but I was curious if there's maybe some at least rationale for going that direction.
Yeah. So we'll touch on that in a second, but 22 personnel passing, very surprising. What doesn't work? Leaving backup tackles on islands like their Alton Slater. This statistic was from Benjamin Solak. 82 quick pressures on the season for Justin Herbert, which Next Gen Stats charts as 2 seconds or less. And so 82 is a lot. It's 20 more than the next closest quarterback in quick pressures, which is Drake May. So you and I have talked about, a lot of different pressure stats, but that one blew my mind when I saw that in Benjamin Solak's article from the other day. Running between the tackles, and specifically between the tackles in stacked boxes, has been one of the least efficient running attacks in the NFL. Only one of the 8 gaps inside the edges is above 3.8 yards per attempt. Kamani Vidal's rushing yards over expectation when running in between the tackles is like, I want to say it's like the second to last running back in the league. But when it's running against light boxes and outside the edges, he's like second in the league. So all of the numbers and the film will all tell you that the Chargers should be running outside the tackles, and instead they are running inside the tackles quite often. And then the last one I mentioned earlier, when the Chargers run the football out of 21 personnel, which is Scott Matlock plus one tight end, they are 28th in the league in EPA per rush per Sumer Sports. A lot of these EPA per play stats on here are from Sumer Sports. That should say EPA per rush. So when they run the football out of 21 personnel, they are a bottom 5 running attack, and they actually run the football most often out of this personnel package. So it is like banging your head against the wall that they keep doing this, and it is not working whatsoever.
This whole slide is jarring. Again, Greg Roman will forget more football than I know, and these guys, I'm assuming, know what they're doing. So the summary of the slide is everything that works well for them, they do it infrequently, and everything that does not work well for them, they do the most often. I don't really know what to tell you, other than some of the 22 personnel stuff with Gadsden. Of course, they're going to feed him, and anything Gadsden, I'm fine with. That has been working all year, but I just it confounds me. Wow, they will, and it's week to week to week to week. I mean, it was with Vidal. You look at his numbers every week. That's good. There's more of an effort to go outside, and then there's the other week, and then there's an effort to go outside, and then there's the following week. I mean, every other week I've been taking the less on Kamani Vidal and Prize Picks because I know for some reason they go right at the middle. And to his credit, I think sometimes he has shown improvement there, but it's just not his game.
No, it's not. And I think some people will look at that and go, "Oh, Scott Matlock sucks," and it's like, I'm not a huge fan of Scott Matlock. I do think he is getting better. But the problem that this is not working is that when they get into 21 personnel, they run the football at like 80% rate. Like it is almost every play they are running the football. And so it's so predictable. Teams load the boxes. And so you don't have the offensive line to protect, open up rushing lanes against stacked boxes. And you don't have a running back right now. When Omari Hampton comes back, that this will probably change a little bit. But when you don't have the line or the back to overcome stacked boxes, you have one of the worst offensive, rushing attacks in the league. It was the same thing last year. Whenever teams would load the box against Gus Edwards, it was like 1 or 2 yards, like every single play. So it's just one of these things that, Greg Roman has done I would say a much better job from like the first 4 games of leaning into the passing game, but it's leaning into personnel usage that works. And I think Greg Olson was talking about this. I forget which podcast he was on, but you as the offensive coordinator, you control your personnel and you control how you can dictate to the defenses by your own tendencies within that personnel usage. So your job as an offensive coordinator is to make things as difficult as possible for defensive coordinators at judging what your tendencies are. When you run the football out of 21 personnel on an 80% clip, you're just handing easy plays to the defense and you're setting your offense up to fail. So it's really baffling to me that this is the problem that the Chargers rushing attack has, is that they're just continuing to pound their head against the wall and expecting different results.
Yeah, and it's generally not varied either. It's not like what they're calling is like, whoa, look at that. I mean, they do like one throwback against the Steelers and whatever the other play was on the fake sweep, and we go, ooh, like that's really cool. And you watch Liam Cohen and the Bucks last year; they did it 42 different times, different ways against the Chargers. Cool. It's so cool, and so we're just like, ooh, yay, do another one. So that tendency to run it in general, plus the lack of variation, is just that's why the numbers are the way they are.
Yeah, I didn't tweet out any clips because the defensive film was nasty, but from a pure X's and O's standpoint, man, Liam Cohen, his offense is a lot of fun to watch. It is a ton of fun to watch on tape.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So moving forward here, not to say that Tucker Fisk is like the most valuable player on the team, but when the Chargers have been getting blown out, he has not really been on the field. So 17 snaps versus Washington, 13 versus Indianapolis, and 7 versus Jacksonville. Those game scripts did not allow for him to be on the field. You're not going to have your main blocking tight end out there. I get it. but we just watched what the Houston Texans did to one of the best offensive lines in the league tonight on Thursday Night Football in the Buffalo Bills. You play that team, you play Max Crosby coming out of the bye. You play the Broncos. The Dallas Cowboys looked a heck of a lot better with Quinnen Williams. Granted, the Raiders offensive line is dog shit. Tucker Fisk has to be on the field. In the other games, then so he didn't play a whole lot in like the first 3 weeks. I think he was like a healthy scratch the first 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. After that, he was playing like 30 snaps a game. And then when they get blown out, it's like 7, 12, 13. Hanan asking about Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and KC. He wasn't on the field against KC, but against Minnesota, his snap count was like 37, and Pittsburgh, it was like 37. And he is a really, really important player when you are requiring chips and double teams. And, the Chargers like to do fake play actions where they pull a guard across the formation. You got to have a tight end who can hold up in pass protection in those situations. And Tucker Fisk can definitely do that. So we've been kind of talking about this, but the worst part about the Chargers passing game right now is when they get into 5-man protections and they try and get 5 people out in the route. Like the passing concepts are just they're not creative. They're very traditional. And then your offensive line just can't hold up. So for me, you got to have 6-man protections as much as humanly possible. And it's not even just an offensive tackle situation. I mean, it is, but like it makes things easier on the guards if you do this. It makes things easier on the center if you do this. So I don't care if you're sacrificing route spacing. You got to protect Herbert as much as you can against these high-end pass rushes that are coming up in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre that the Chargers, all 4 of their losses, it's the ones where Fisk didn't play much. And I know that's not, he was not winning them the Indianapolis game, right? But and probably
he's not playing run defense, that's for sure.
No, he's not doing any of that. He's not covering Tyler Warren and all that sort of stuff. But more positive game scripts or neutral game scripts like the Giants, like the Commanders, some of the Jags game, and none of the Colts game. It would have been nice to have him out there. Again, it's just so flip-floppy and strange. So I don't even know why that makes any sense. He plays week 3 with Alt out there, and then Alt goes down in the Giants game, and then from that point they just played him less. I don't know. It feels ass backwards to me. Yeah.
So whether it's Fisk or they did actually have one snap where Austin Deculus was a 6 offensive lineman that I missed watching it live, but that did happen.
Yep.
So 6 offensive line looks, Tucker Fisk out there, Will Dissly out there. Just whatever you've been doing from a pass protection standpoint has obviously not been working. Tucker Fisk is a guy that can help a lot here. Yeah. The other thing that really bothered me watching the tape from Jacksonville is just the lack of yak concepts for the said yak receivers that are doing very, very well. So they did those 2 receiver screens on like the very first drive. And then there were hardly any yak designs for those receivers after that point. And I'm sitting there watching the Buffalo Bills tonight, and they're in the 4th quarter in a 2-minute drill. They're still designing yak plays for Khalil Shakir. Now, granted, that's not how you really want to run a 2-minute drill. But when you're facing these pass rushes, and you're just continuing to do 5-man drop or 5-man protections and deep pass sets and everything like that, it's going to get Herbert pressured. And so I need to see some yak opportunities for these guys. Quentin, Trey, and Ladd are all really, really effective in that regard. They can all make people miss. They can all create, yards after catch from a physicality standpoint. Get the smoke screens out there. Get some actual screens out there. Flats, short crosses, everything like that. And just make things so much easier for Herbert and for them to get some extra yards as well, I think is very important.
Yeah, it feels like the mesh stuff is this reserved for when they're at the 5-yard line and half the time it works or doesn't work. That kind of feels like it. It's strange to see them. I understand that the down and distance because of the intentional grounding, you kind of have to force some sort of quick stuff like they did for Trey Harris to open that, but like it looked really good. And then the Jags weren't exactly playing back at the sticks on that one either. So things like that, give it a whirl. I mean, they had, I guess it was the Titans with the 3rd down conversion to Trey Harris as well, where it's like, you get the ball, go get the yak, go get the yards, and he did. A little bit more.
He's
of
a
that.
really effective slant runner. I'll be very curious if Matt Harmon tracks him, what that
Mm,
slant success rate is, because it feels
yeah.
like it works every single time.
Yeah, I think he'll have like a success by target that's very high. TBD on how much they've actually like
Right.
the yards per route run on that because he's just not the featured guy very often. But
Right.
yeah, would love to get the numbers on those. Part of this issue too with the Yak stuff is I feel like last year with McConkey it's against like the Falcons. I don't know what else they were doing, but I'm pretty sure McConkey had 4 or 5 catches over the middle and he got injured halfway through that game or something. But he had a ton of yards just after the catch because that's like the only thing that worked for them.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like I've been seeing that with really a lot of these guys. And
Right.
last year, what Herbert and Roman were doing so much better is all that stuff over the middle, which generally was a Yak thing. And this is without a tight end really to speak of last year. No offense, Will Dissly. That was the best of his career. It was by far the best numbers of his career.
Yeah.
You look at this year, he's down like 20 to 25 points in passer rating over the short middle, intermediate middle. Where's that been? And you have Gadsden now. Like that should not be
Right.
much of it. You have Trey Harris, you have QJ, so that should not be down as much as it is. I'm very curious. I don't know how to chart. I mean, I could look. I do know how to chart because I could watch the film, but screw that. I wish there was someone to tell me how many over the middle Yak opportunities there were for these guys because it feels so infrequent.
Yeah. I do feel like McConkey in particular is a lot more like vertical and like out routes this year. And I don't know, maybe they feel like that middle of the field is more like Keenan and Trey. I don't know, but I think in general, just more RPO action would be great. Like they do a lot of straight traditional play action dropbacks, and you and I kind of mentioned this briefly, but the Jaguars linebackers were not falling for any play action fakes. They were essentially daring the Chargers to run the football. But if you're doing RPO action, it gives Herbert a lot of flexibility where he can tuck in and run. He can hand it off. He can actually, throw a slant, throw a smoke, whatever. I do think that's a smart way to kind of blend things going forward. To Greg Roman's credit, when the Chargers had a bye week last year, they came out and made a lot of adjustments into what was working. You mentioned the middle of the field stuff with Ladd. More Ladd in general was pretty evident right out of the gate with that Denver game. And so I'm hopeful that the Chargers, who have access to all of these numbers and more, look at their effectiveness out of 10 personnel and 22 personnel and especially passing the football and lean into these looks. And maybe we don't see, as big of a second half of a season from Gadsden that we did with Ladd last year. But I think it's on the table with how effective they can pass the football out of 22 personnel.
Yep.
10 personnel. Can you really do that with this offensive line? I'm not asking for it, 10 times a game like it was in the first couple of games, but wrinkle it in there 3 or 4 times a game. And again, just make things more difficult for the defenses that you're playing, especially when you're playing the Texans are the number 1 defense in the league right now. The Broncos, I think, are 3rd. The Chiefs are no slouch in that regard. So they have some tough defenses coming up, and just make it, if you're just going to keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to make it so much easier on them. So I'm not ever going to say, yeah, let's do 10 personnel 20 times a game and 22 personnel 15 times a game. But let's, extra wrinkle this thing up a little bit and crank those dials up a little bit. And let's get 5 plays of 10 personnel here and 6 there and 22 personnel. Let's get Gadsden 4 or 5 targets out of there. Like any extra little change like that really does make a huge difference for what you are showing to defensive coordinators out there.
Yeah, remember week 1, we were freaking out because it was like, well, you can go to Keenan or you can go to McConkey, and the defense has to pick one, and they lost every time against the Chiefs. Or the Chiefs, lost every time.
Yeah,
run up against that, and I just feel like I don't know where that has gone. Yes, the offensive line is different. So that probably does change some things, but it just feels different. To your point on the defenses they're about to face, Texans 1st, Broncos 4th, Eagles 8th. So
yeah,
we're in for a fun time.
Yeah, really quickly, Atticus bring this up. What do you make of Ladd's drops? Do you think it's an issue? Do you think it's just kind of, the variance of being a receiver? What are your thoughts about Ladd and his drops right now?
I think it's at least not a significant issue to me where I'm like, wow, he has a drop problem. I think the difference is, and it was so weird, but he was, I think, like 8th or something ridiculous in the contested catch area last year. And I feel like that's where we feel like these drops are felt the most. I don't know where it is now, but I know it's very, very low this year. It's it's kind of what you'd expect from someone like Lad McConkey, who just happened to catch everything last year, especially in those contested catch moments against the Bengals, against the Saints, all those plays. And I think that's maybe where we're feeling it more than just the pure drops this year.
So PFF only has him as 3 drops right now.
Right. Okay. So he's at 13 of 21 last year on contested catches for almost 62%. 3 of 12 this year at 25%. So I think that's just kind of where we're feeling it more.
Yeah. I feel like 3 is kind of lowballing it a little bit.
Yeah, that does feel like, I don't think it's 10, but
right. I would have guessed it was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I don't know. But maybe it's the contested catch thing. I don't know.
Yeah. PFF had 6 drops last season. They have 3 this year. So
yeah, his drop rate is actually lower in terms of the rate they've been charting him at this year.
Yeah.
It does feel like more.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because last year he was the only pass catcher, like really, making that much of an impact. So the last thing with the offense going forward, I don't know really like how to frame this, but the Jacksonville Jaguars spied Justin Herbert like 4 or 5 times last week. And it was definitely a major issue. Like there were a couple of times you saw him kind of lean like he was going to go scramble, but Devin Lloyd was right there or Oluokun was right there. And then he kind of like held the football for a little bit. I do think watching the tape that was a contributor to his over 3-second average time to throw was the Jaguars mixing in some quarterback spy where other teams have not really done that. So keep an eye on this. I think just going forward is if this is something that other teams are going to do, how does that affect Herbert's average time to throw? Does it bring down his scramble yards, et cetera, which have been like a huge, advantage for the Chargers offense this year? So I think this is just something worth keeping an eye on. I don't know necessarily like if Herbert can change anything to this or if the Chargers can design some things to free him up as a scrambler. Really, I would have to kind of like dive into that more from a schematic standpoint. But they spied him way more than any other team has done in his entire career. And so I just think it's worth pointing out.
No, that's a great point. I definitely did not pay attention to that as much. So that's a good one to keep in mind.
Okay. Any other final thoughts on the offense before we get to the defense?
Yes, we didn't mention the line guys. No, we're not going to talk about it. It's
We've had that conversation a lot. We all know that they are not very good.
Yeah.
Okay, before we continue, we are going to take a quick break for our audio audience, and then we will be right back after this. All right, so defense. What do you make of what works for and doesn't work for the defense?
I think the defense is actually it's very easy to talk about because it just feels like it is what it is. Less complex in terms of the issues. The corners are definitely what's working. Yes, they had Tarheeb still out, but otherwise they've been pretty fantastic. Yes, he had that weird pass interference call, whatever, last week. But they've only had one game of 100 yards allowed receiving so far this season, which is far, 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 far better than I thought they would be at this point during the offseason. So fantastic there. The 3 edge rusher looks on passing downs. That 3rd down look is just beautiful. Tuli and Owe have combined for 30 pressures and 7 sacks since the trade, which is awesome. Brandon Thorn just released his true sack rate and high quality sack rate and all that sort of stuff. And Tuli's numbers, people kind of view him as a cleanup sack guy, and he definitely does get some cleanup pressures, cleanup sacks, that sort of thing. But he's charting very, very well in Brandon Thorn's true sack rate and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, the best Charger, not that it's a great edge rusher group right now, but the best of the 3 of them. But Owe has climbed up as well, Mac as well. So the 3 edge rushers are just doing a fantastic job. Brandon Thorn, at least by his grading and his charting, the numbers for him love Tuli. And so I think that's definitely shown up here. The Owe trade only helps that. What doesn't work is, generally speaking, the rush defense, but they are 28th in EPA per rush versus 12 personnel. Teams are specifically going after the Eboigbe plus Owe packages. Those are 2 guys that are, Owe trying to figure it out. More of a pass rusher. Eboigbe is figuring it out, but has definitely also been more of a pass rusher as well. So They are not the run defenders that a Naquan Jones is, or a Khalil Mack, or Tuli Tuipulotu is. So teams are going after it, and it's working very, very well.
Yeah, I want to credit Alistair from the Thunder Down Under group to bring this up, because he was talking about on Twitter and then on their episode recently, where the Jaguars did a really good job of targeting this specific unit. And, on the EPA per rush situation, I can't go and like specifically filter out like only Eboigbe and Owe options out there. But after he brought that up, I went and watched the tape, and I definitely agree with it, where whenever Eboigbe and Owe were out there, they were bringing in 12 personnel. So that's the one running back, two tight end sets. And this has been a theme for the Chargers defense all season long. The Colts did this, the Commanders did this, everybody who wants to run the football did this. The Steelers tried to do this, the Vikings tried to do this, and for whatever reason, the Chargers run defense showed up in a big way that day. Eboigbe, to his credit, in those particular two games had a combined 5 run stops. And so I think it's partially some personnel issues. It's partially some tendency issues for the Chargers. It's also just Eboigbe and kind of Jamari Caldwell a little bit with this too, are just trying to figure out like the physicality of what the NFL really is, and Owe has never really been a run defense guy. He's always been like a pass rusher guy. The Chargers are trying to say, hey man, like you gotta be an every down player for us. And it's been a little bit of a learning curve for him. And not that he's like a super young player, but he is still on a rookie contract, and he's very much out of his comfort zone in rushing situations. So the Chargers, unfortunately, like they do have this tendency to say, here's our starting 4, here's the next 4, and we're just going to kind of like rotate you guys in and out, versus like, okay, Khalil's tired, let's put one guy in. Tiertar's tired, let's put one guy in. It's more of like a hockey sub situation. And so when the Chargers get to these packages where Eboigbe and Owe are out there, and it's a manageable situation, they're just mashing 12 personnel, and 28th in EPA per rush is a problem. So you can manage in the low 20s and into the teens, but if you're into 28th territory, it's tough. Like the Buffalo Bills, for example, they're right next to the Chargers in this regard, and the Texans just mashed that button tonight. It's one of the main reasons why they won tonight. So if the Chargers don't have an answer here from like an effort and physicality standpoint, they got to make some changes from their own tendencies, because teams are kind of red laser dotting Justin Eboigbe and Odafe Owe with 12 personnel right now.
Yeah, that's brutal there. So they do have a name that they can keep active and let them rip. But otherwise, yeah, like you said, physicality standpoint, effort standpoint, whatever it is, just playing together standpoint, rest standpoint, I don't know. But 28th is a problem.
Yeah. And I know for those watching and listening, the defense has a lot fewer points. It's because they're a lot easier to talk about. They have a lot more good things going for them than this. Like I do think Jamari Caldwell and Tiertard have largely been fantastic together. We've talked about the linebacker struggles for quite some time. I didn't really feel like doing that again. What did you make of the way the safeties played? Did you watch the defensive tape or no? Not yet.
Not super specifically. Let me hear it.
I thought it was a pretty rough game for Molden and Mickens, and Molden popped back up on the injury report this week. It's really just frustrating because he played so well in the previous 2 games. And then this game, he had 2 really key missed tackles. And Mickens does kind of look like his head is spinning a little bit with like motion. And, there are multiple times where Molden will come down and Mickens is kind of over the top. And you just see him kind of like hesitating. He's not quite sure which way to go. He's late a couple of times. So we kind of talked about the Tony Jefferson situation. When these teams are run heavy teams, I need to see Tony Jefferson out there and not RJ Mickens. And that doesn't mean I don't believe in Mickens going forward. I think he can be a very effective football player, but I just think his head is spinning a little bit from a run diagnose standpoint. And he's pretty consistently late in fitting the run. Whereas Tony Jefferson, I know, will absolutely fit the run. And I think it just makes things that much more difficult when your safety is a little inconsistent, plus your defensive tackle is a little inconsistent, and an edge rusher is a little inconsistent. So I think they need a stabilizing force right now in Tony Jefferson.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. I think Denzel Perryman has played better against the run. He's been a welcome sight for sure, but then occasionally, like in the last game against the Jags, it's a miss, it's an over pursuit, and it's like, oh god, okay, who's behind me now? And it's Mickens who isn't quite catching up just yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very curious how much that EPA per rush versus 12 personnel is not just a defensive linebacker issue, but also because I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, Boygby was out there against the Dolphins on the big Achane run, but the safety behind him was Mickens. So it's a 1-2-3 layer problem.
Yeah, 100%. When you're getting into 12 personnel, you're trying to get a lot of combo blocks. You're trying to get, you know, your offensive line moving up towards the linebackers, and there's just not a lot of space for your interior guys to make plays in that regard. So you need your safeties and your edge rushers to crash in, and that's not really happening a ton right now, and that's what's really leading to these pop runs so frequently. So moving forward, you mentioned the name. I think Naquan Jones needs to be active as well. So Naquan Jones, Tony Jefferson are two guys that just need to be out there more often. I think it's tough with the way the defensive line rotation is, and Scott Matlock kind of gives them some flexibility. I think he played like 8 snaps this past week on defense. I need to see Naquan Jones out there because it does two things. It shores up the middle of the field with his presence. He's actually very explosive at the point of attack in terms of creating tackles for loss and run stops. And it allows Teair Tart to be a little bit more flexible with his alignment. Whereas right now he's playing a lot of nose for them, and not that he's bad at it, but I think moving him around the line kind of gives them a lot more explosive play potential. And so I just think his ability to play the nose and be a true nose tackle creates a lot of flexibility, creates a lot more explosive play potential. So if you're not going to be super consistent against the run, you know, let's create some havoc up front, and let's try and get some tackles for loss and create an advantage for yourself that way if you're struggling overall from a success rate standpoint.
Yeah, that play against the Titans, it was like an arm over at the goal line, and then he either took on the fullback or the puller, and it wasn't like he made the play. If you look on the season, I think he has 6 tackles on the season, but that play is partially that works because of Naquan Jones. So stuff out there, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, Jefferson, I think, would be part of that as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, they started to kind of design some run blitzes for Denzel Perryman and Derwin James, and I actually think it helped a little bit. It was definitely too late in the cause, but I liked the way that looked. And again, just creating some opportunities for explosive plays, even if you're not going to be super consistent, that helps there. And the Chargers are, I think, 28th in overall blitz rate, which is about where they were last year. They do a lot of simulated pressures. They don't blitz a ton, but when they blitz, they're getting pressure at like a 30% clip, which overall, I think it's like 20%. But their blitz effectiveness is really, really high. And Jesse Minter doesn't want to rush 5. He wants to rush 4 and, you know, create passing lanes and give him some advantages in that regard. But it's a really effective thing. So I'm not asking him to go from 28th to 8th. I'm not asking him to go full Wink Martindale, but can we go from 28th to like 20th? That would be really fun to see. Give Dayon some extra blitz opportunities. I think it would be good for his confidence.
Yes.
Give Derwin some extra blitz opportunities. So I'm just asking for some minor tweaks in that regard.
No, that's a really good point. When you were mentioning the run blitzing with Derwin and Perryman, Henley, I think, is a really good call there too. Just if blitzing, whatever he ends up doing, something that just give him that role. He'll do more than that.
Yeah.
Get that confidence up, get him making those plays that just seem to spark him. So yeah, I'm all aboard that.
And then the last one I think is just like where are we at with the physicality of this defense? Where, you know, Daniel Popper pointed this out, like, or it might have been Chris Trim, I can't remember. One of those two talked about the amount of travel, and, you know, they did the Hall of Fame game in Brazil and like all these East Coast stuff and all that. But when you watch the Steelers tape and you watch the Vikings tape, the physicality, like, it looks like a drastically different unit to what I watched from the Jacksonville game, what we watched from the Giants game. So how do you actually find consistency from a physicality standpoint? I don't know, because like they talk about it all the time. Khalil Mack, I listened to his press conference, or not really press conference, it was like a media availability on Saturday, and dude had me fired up and ready to go and play this football game, and then it just did not show up at all. So we have to get to a point where the Chargers are able to get to a more consistent standpoint here, because they're going to have another 10 a.m. kick. Granted, Kansas City is not like the East Coast, but it is a 10 a.m. kick. If they make the playoffs, they're going to travel likely to the East Coast. So the consistency from a physicality standpoint, you can't just be super physical at home and then on the road, you're just not. Like, I need to see that improve quite a bit.
Yeah, and I thought maybe, we're looking at this like, okay, consistency from a physicality standpoint, maybe it's just the lines that they're playing. But I mean, you talk about Darnell Washington, who's apparently 3'11", he said, and Frazier and these guys, they're plenty physical. That Steelers group is supposed to be physical. That line is very physical.
Absolutely.
So they brought it in that game. So I think as against a team like the Jaguars or the Giants, you should be able to bring it too. So I don't know either. I don't know what the answers are there other than that weird 10 a.m. voodoo stuff. But yeah, you can't go, we're going to slow start and not bring it against Derrick Henry this week in the playoffs. Like your season's over.
Yeah. So I know we were very critical of the Chargers defense on Sunday, and I do think that is justified. But I think like when we zoom out through 11 weeks and we look at like where the strengths are, overall numbers, overall tape, I think the defense really it's just some minor personnel tweaks and some just, again, the consistency of the physicality. Like those are the two things I need to see. The offense is very different. But I do think overall the defense has largely been about what we could have hoped this year, with just some little changes going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and the worst thing, or not the worst thing, but what we're looking for partially, we talked about linebacker play and the safety play. They've done that before. Like I've seen Dan Henley be great in this defense before. If he can just get back to something I already know he can do, the defense is already better. So some tweaks, some return to form, Molden, please stop getting injured. All that stuff should help.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck is going on with Molden this year, but he's had 2 knee injuries. He's playing without his left thumb, basically. It's been a tough year for him from an injury standpoint. Obviously, coming off a tough season last year.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. What's the deal with special teams?
It's special, all right. Cameron Dicker has been pretty good this year. Made it from 59 as we saw against the Steelers and missed from 40 something, which sucked. But has 92.6% this year. I believe is third among kickers. J.K. Scott, 9th in yards per attempt, 4th in the grade. I don't know who's grading punters. That's a stat. There you go. Have at it. As a holder, I never thought I'd live to see the day where I'd have to watch holder film and snapper film and whatnot. But here we are. And it was a terror to watch the snap and a joy to watch J.K. Scott on the hold. So congratulations to him. This past game against the Jags, phenomenal. Was the MVP of the game. Thank God for him. The bad is pretty much everything else. It is unbelievable, impossible how bad the Chargers have been at everything else this year. Yeah. And it goes beyond, like, it's not a Josh Harris thing or a J.K. Scott or Cameron Dicker thing as much. Darius Davis, who I want to circle back to, 31st in kick return average, 25.1, 27th in punt return average with a 7.3. The Chargers are the worst team in both kick return yards per attempt allowed at 29.2 and punt return yards per attempt allowed 16.1. So Davis is getting 25.1. They're allowing 29.1. Davis on the punt returns is getting 7.3. They're allowing 16.1. It's a huge, huge disparity and difference between those two. And it's really, 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 really bad. Surprisingly bad. If you tell me, hey, all these players get hurt, there's a ton of turnover, where does Fickens' group go this year? I would say, I don't know, probably still top 5, right? Top 10, 15th, 20th. The worst in the NFL. I can give him some excuses for all the turnover, whatever happened with Caleb Murphy. They traded Jaw Taylor, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. But on the season, it's been god-awful. I hope it gets a little bit better. Dean Leonard does look great out there as gunner. If
Yeah.
John Taylor's not back, you need to bring Dean Leonard back because he's a key player for them. I don't want to see more turnover with this group. And then other than that, occasionally Cameron Dicker has an out of bounds kickoff. I think he's had 3 or 4 this year, it feels like. And then J.K. Scott has shanked punts at some of the worst times. But, minor things. I don't think it's cost them many games. But being, 9 yards different in punt returns is ridiculous. And a whole almost 4 yards in kickoff returns is ridiculous.
I was trying to see if on PFF if they charted out of bounds kickoffs, and they do not. So
Darn.
That's unfortunate. I think Darius Davis being as low on this list is potentially like the most shocking development of the season. He did miss a few games. I don't know if he's like fully healthy, but we had like 2 games of Nyheim Hines and it looked drastically different at kickoff return. The Tariq still punt returner stuff was not great. I wasn't a huge fan of that decision. But I think, there's some stuff going on with Tyler Conklin on kickoff return, and it's not great blocking overall. But Darius Davis looks like a guy who does not trust himself, looks like he does not trust his blocking, and he looks like he's hesitating a lot out there. And it sucks. Like, he was the best returner in the league as a rookie, and it has not been the same ever since that point. So J-Nut says DD playing like his controller got disconnected. Yeah, honestly, it does feel like that sometimes. So, Travion Williams has looked okay. The Texans waived Dameon Pierce today. I would be very interested there to bring him in, if nothing else, for kickoff returns. But yeah, if again, the Chargers have access to all of these numbers, they have access to all of the film. They got to make some changes at special teams over the stretch. You cannot go into a playoff game and have this big of a difference in punt returns and kick returns. 9 yards difference in punt returns is crazy. The kickoff returns 4 yards. It's a little bit more manageable, but that's still, it's not ideal when you're talking about 1 possession games, swing plays. If you give up a big punt return, that can lose you a game in the playoffs. So they got to figure out a way to shore that up. And again, this team with their injuries, they have to figure out a way to get more explosive plays somehow. If you can give me a 40-yard kickoff return, we already saw this in Miami. Nyheim Hines basically won them the game in Miami with a 40-yard kickoff return. We need somebody to get us those opportunities where Darius just looks a little slow back there. Yeah, and it's been a very big surprise to me watching how poor he has performed this year.
Yeah, at first it was he tries to set it up and I so used to watching him perform and be so awesome at this. He'll set up and go to the right, let's say, and it's a cut left and he's gone or something for even if it's 28 yards, 30 yards or full on touchdown. Now it's just like he kind of sets it up and then crashes into somebody, or he goes straight and crashes into somebody, or Tyler Conklin can't get his block for the 4th time in a row. And Darius Davis crashes in. It's really bad. I can't watch Conklin anymore out there. But 16.1 yards allowed per punt return. So you can catch it at the 35, and the offense has already crossed midfield.
Right.
On average for this defense, it's a miracle.
And you do that with some of these kickers. That's instant field goal range.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I do not know how you allow 16.1 yards per punt return with this group. I think it'll be better. It should be better. The pieces are kind of coming back together, but I feel like I've been saying that now, and it's November. Thanksgiving break is next week, so got to get it shored up. Darius Davis, I'll see what it looks like after the bye. They make some tweaks, maybe things change. They get the right guys out there.
Yeah,
I don't know what you do. Hines felt so much like the answer on kickoff return.
Yeah.
But then they cut him. Again, another confounding Joe Ortiz decision on special teams. / Ryan Ficken. I don't know why Ryan Ficken wouldn't want him out there. But they keep going to Darius Davis like he's the same guy and just hoping that eventually he returns to what he was before. It just looks bad every single time.
Yeah. For what it's worth, J.K. Scott had his 2nd highest average hang time this past week against Jacksonville is at 4.88 seconds. So maybe they just need J.K. Scott to be that as opposed to about 4.6 seconds, which is his season average. So, yeah, I guess we just need J.K. Scott to morph into the best punter in the league. I don't know.
There you go. Problem solved.
All right, so AFC playoff picture. This was taken before the Houston Texans beat the Buffalo Bills today, so I don't know how much that has changed. That Week 17 game just became very, very important against the Houston Texans. Currently, again, heading into today, the Chargers were the 6th seed. NFL Network had them at a 63% chance of making the playoffs. The Athletic 64, Next Gen Stats 60, ESPN 63. So the Chargers obviously at 7-4. Right now, they actually would be the 5 seed because the Bills lost and they have a better conference record than the Bills. So right now, technically they're the 5 seed, but around 60% is where the Chargers are at. If they lose to the Raiders, it drops like dramatically. So got to take care of business against the Raiders, who are a very bad team. Did you see the CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens stuff?
Yeah, which is funny because that I go to Red Rock Casino with my aunt and uncle. That's like their place to go. I played bingo in Red Rock. I could have seen CeeDee Lamb and Pickens there.
So the Raiders got like absolutely housed by the Cowboys, and their 2 best players on offense were hungover, basically, if you missed that story. So the Raiders are very, very bad. If the Chargers lose to the Raiders, then they don't even deserve to make the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
But yes, as Hanan points out, they could have been at 90% if they had beaten the Jaguars. So it was definitely a big missed opportunity last week. All is not done yet. 60% is better than nothing. So this is where the Chargers are at. It is the AFC is a convoluted, jumbled mess. You know, the Ravens are 1 game behind the Steelers. Obviously, the Chiefs are 5-5. The Texans just won tonight. Chargers lost to the Jaguars. So there are some. This is not groundbreaking analysis by any means, but the month of December is so important for the Chargers' playoff chances. They have to make some of these changes and beat some of these teams. And if you lose to the Eagles, when you lose to the Eagles, it's not the end of the world. But if you lose to the Texans and you lose to the Broncos again and you lose to the Chiefs, like that's where you get into trouble. And that's how you end up missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm sure all these games, I don't know if the Chargers themselves are at all aware, or the players, that is, oh, it's a 90-something% chance if we win this game against the Jags. But you come out of the bye and you look at that schedule. I mean, you have to win. You have to win these games.
Yeah.
Sure, you can get to 10 wins, and I think you make the playoffs, and we'll talk about our predictions in a bit. But like, aim for more, because you never know in the AFC conference. This is, I mean, just looking at this picture is insane. Broncos, Patriots, Colts, Steelers. Who had that? And the fact that that's possibly even going to hold for at least 3 of those, the top 3, is insane.
Yeah.
So nobody had that. It's just such a shame the Chargers have all these issues in a year where all this is up in the air. Everybody's hurt. So, yeah, it was a bummer to type in somewhere between 60 and 70% for these playoff odds after they could have been at 91 after last week.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think anybody trusts those top 4 teams to actually win the Super Bowl.
Nope.
So people in the chat were talking about this. I absolutely do not trust any of those 4 teams to win the Super Bowl. I refuse to trust Bo Nix, the Patriots offensive line and defense, and the Daniel Jones to go win me a Super Bowl. Like, no chance of that happening. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. The AFC is kind of a hot mess this year, but you know, the Ravens could get hot at the right time. Bills could get hot at the right time. We'll see. You know, those have obviously been the key pieces there in the AFC going forward.
So as of right now, the Chargers are traveling to Indy. Oh no, they're the 5th seed. They're the 5th seed technically.
Right now they're the 5th seed, so it would be at Pittsburgh, but
technically at Baltimore when we all said and done, we think.
Yeah, I think the Bills probably stabilize as the 5 seed. Their schedule going forward is pretty easy. Obviously, the Texans game was tough tonight. I think the Bills will be the 5 seed. So Bills Ravens in the first round. That'll be kind of sick, honestly.
Knock one of them out for me. Thank you.
Yeah. So really, the Chargers are fighting for the 6th and the 7th seed, and they're trying to keep the Chiefs and the Texans at bay, and they've got to stay a game ahead of the Jaguars, obviously. So that's really what we're talking about here.
Yay.
All right, last little bit here. Remaining schedule, obviously, home against the Raiders, home against the Eagles. So good news for the Chargers is that they don't have to leave the SoFi Stadium comforts of their own home for the next few weeks. At Chiefs, at Cowboys, home against the Texans, at the Broncos. What games do you feel most confident in? It could be a win or a loss. What do you feel the most sure about?
I am very positive they win the Raiders game and lose the Eagles game the next week. Sorry, I just don't think they have it right now for what the Eagles can do. TBD on if that team decides to implode at some point. The Eagles with whatever faux drama is there, and Jalen Hurts this and that, and AJ Brown this and that. But I don't want to watch Jalen Carter versus any Chargers interior player. No, thank you. I don't want to watch the offensive line against the Chargers. I don't want to watch Saquon Barkley against the Chargers. So again, it's a primetime game. It's like the team. I know the Eagles aren't the number one seed right now, but like they won the Super Bowl. So they are the team that gets everybody's best shot. So I think that does help the Chargers a little bit. I'm good. I'll be at that game, but yeehaw. So the Raiders game, I don't care how much they win that game by. They'll win that game. Eagles, I think they're going to lose that game.
Yeah, the Eagles offense is so dramatic, and there was more AJ Brown stuff today that like the vibes are so bad on offense for them that the Chargers could potentially keep it close. But I just have such a hard time envisioning them scoring more than 13, 14 points on that defense right now with the way that they're playing. I'm really, really close to just chalking up the Houston game as an L. Like after what we watched tonight, and it's not just an overreaction. Like they've been the top defense all year long. Those edge rushers terrify me, and we saw them kick Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt's ass last year. And Will Anderson has taken his game up a notch. So I'm really close to Houston being chalked up as a loss right now. I'm really, really close there. I feel like even with Quinnen Williams, the Chargers should be able to beat the Cowboys. That secondary and linebacker core is atrocious. And if you can just relatively stop CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, you should be okay. So I'm relatively close on a loss against Houston. I'm relatively close on a win against the Cowboys. Week 15 at Chiefs, I am so conflicted about because the Chiefs offense is like, they're the success rate king right now. Like they're super just efficient. They're not very explosive defensively. It's not been the same unit that we've seen, but at the same time, like we know Spags can dial it up at any moment. So I think the Chiefs is kind of a 50-50 game for me right now.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys and Texans, I'm leaning positive, negative. And the Broncos, if the Broncos have something to play for in 18, that's a loss. Like I'm chalking that up to a loss right away. At Denver with that defense, I'm just not comfortable predicting a win there. So if they don't have anything to play for, great. That'd be awesome. Play Jarrett Stidham or whoever else their backup is. I don't even know. So that game is kind of TBD. But if the Broncos have to play starters, I'm not comfortable with that scenario for the Chargers at all.
Yeah, I think generally what you're getting at here is, okay, Greg Roman or whoever versus the defensive line of that team. Yeah, that's kind of where you find your losses. Chiefs, I don't know. I want to see them even for the next couple of weeks and just see what are they like.
Right.
I thought they'd be a little bit better, coming out of the bye. Andy Reid, here we go.
They play the Colts this week, dude. They could lose again.
They probably will lose again. Yeah, wow. I didn't realize they were playing the Colts this week. That's not great for them, but whatever. F the Chiefs. The Cowboys won. I think they'll be fine. The good news is the Chargers secondary has been, like we said, just one 100-yard game. They've passed several tests. Are they specifically locking down CeeDee Lamb and Pickens like one-on-one? No, but the coverage and what they're doing behind everything has been great. So I think they're okay there. Javonte Williams might have 200 bazillion yards for whatever reason, but I think they'll be fine. Yeah. Texans, I don't know. It feels like the Giants game or the Jags game where it's like, well, that opposing team doesn't have a great offensive line, so hopefully our guys tee off. Whoops. Chargers defensive line doesn't tee off, and their defensive line just destroys the Chargers. Their line gets it done. Ours does not. Disaster. Thankfully, not at Houston, but that's going to be a nasty one for sure there. That they, like the Jags, or not like the Jags, unlike the Jags, unlike the Giants, unlike the Commander, whoever, their secondary is also freaking terrifying. So it sucks. Broncos, I don't know. At some point, Bo Nix is gonna fuck up, right? Like, I mean, not that he hasn't already, but
There's been some very bad Bo Nix games this year.
He's so bad. But then it's like, oh, there's that play that he has, and then he's a winner or something.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Tim Tebow. I don't know. He's got he kind of got that Tim Tebow thing where it's like, well, nothing for 3.5 quarters, and then there's that random play.
Yeah. He does like 3 or 4 really cool things a week, but the down to down efficiency, like they're very much a below average unit in EPA per play, success rate, like all that stuff.
Yeah, and then RJ Harvey has not been efficient. J.K. Dobbins is out for the season, so we'll see. But then, like they took the Chiefs after a bye and won. So I don't know. They just keep winning and whatever. Everyone who said I was dumb for saying I should be terrified of the Broncos can kiss my ass. So like, what's like the next most positive game after the Raiders for me? I think it's Cowboys.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know. They all just kind of seem like it sucks. Chiefs, I guess. So we're on the same page. They play at Kansas City or at Broncos. You're more likely to pick an at Broncos loss than at Chiefs loss right now.
Yes, I would say that is true.
If they have something to play for. If everybody's playing.
Yes. If the Broncos game was week 17, I would chalk that up to a loss right now. But the fact that it's week 18, they might have the 1 seed wrapped up, which is insane. Or maybe they have the 2 seed wrapped up. I don't know. I feel like they're pretty entrenched into the 1 or the 2 spots. We'll see. You know, the Colts do have a very difficult schedule going forward. So for me, it's just like, what do they have to play for? Is it like a first half situation? We don't really know. So overall, I think after the Steelers game, I probably would have said 11-6. Because the vibes were just really high and the defense looked so great. But last week, it's messing with me, and it's the bye week. So I think they can find 3 wins here. I think they can go 3-3 and sneak into the playoffs, depending on tiebreakers, maybe the 6 or the 7 seed. I think that's where I'm going to go is 10-7.
Yep, that's where I'm at too, 10-7. So really it's okay, we think they beat the Raiders. So where are the 2 wins? And so
I think it's Raiders, Cowboys, and then maybe at Chiefs or maybe at Broncos.
Yeah, I would if they could get to 10 before they have to play the Texans and Broncos, that sounds wonderful to me. Because then at that point, it almost feels like, house money. Like, you want to be a higher seed maybe, but probably not winning the division at that point, but you're making it. So that'd be great.
They're not winning the division.
No.
They're too far behind Denver right now for that to be the case. If they had won last week, then you're only a game behind them and you have that week 18 game in your back pocket. But after losing last week, man, like their chances of winning the division, I think, are like 12% technically, according to like most models. So it's not impossible, but All right, you guys in the chat, let us know what are you comfortable with win-loss wise here? Who do you have the Chargers winning, losing? If you're watching the replay, comment. Let us know what your final record prediction is there. All right, before we end, our guy Wyatt sent in a huge super chat, and we have to give a big shout out to him. He says, missed your 10 million episode, but wanted to say I post on many accounts and have followed you for a while. You taught me so much about football, but more importantly, in a dark time in my life, you guys kept me going. Thank you so much. And you don't know me, but love you both.
Oh, I mean, we love and appreciate that. It's an odd thing to have something like this. I understand as an older brother, a husband, a son, a teacher, a coach, that sort of thing, that sort of impact. But from like here, sitting at home, to see something like this, and it's not it's I don't know what the word is. I mean, Steven's a counselor, so I suppose it's a bit different. But for me to hear like something like that from just something that we do as our hobby is, I'm not trying to like underplay what we do, because I do kind of get it. There's something that we get out of this that's so special, to come in here and vent or talk or chat, be frustrated, be happy, that sort of thing. But to communicate, there's just something special about being able to communicate with you guys and what that does for me. I mean, I was tired before the stream, and I was kind of just like down because it's the bye week, I'm tired, kind of sick. And by the end of it, you know, even just something like this, it just like kind of boosts my spirits, and I feel better heading into tomorrow now because of just being on here talking about how much the offense sucks. So don't make me cry. See, and everything, right?
Wyatt is one of us. That is such like that's a comment that touched my own heart there.
Oh yeah, 100%. So it's you know, I'll get DMs or someone will come up to me at SoFi and say something like this, and it's just I kind of almost don't understand it, because it's just us in a microphone, you know. But if we can do any small bit of that, if it's a bad time, bad day, bad game, bad play, whatever, firing Anthony Lynn, firing Brandon Staley, eventually maybe firing Greg Roman, to be there for all that is, you know, if we can bring any bit of light to it, as Steven is cracking up. I'm trying to be sentimental. I'm
not cracking up at your comment. I'm cracking up at Josh's comment.
I'm trying not to read it. I saw his freaking name pop up, and I'm trying not to read it. Anyway, Wyatt, anytime, send me a message or come up to us at a game. Let me know if you're going to be there. Happy to chat, take a photo. I can't drink beer, but I'll buy you one.
Yeah, I can't believe how many people will. I'm trying to make a serious comment. I can't. I will never get tired of like people like this making comments like this, and I'm sorry you were dealing with a dark time, Wyatt. You know, I think that's the beauty of football, is that it can be such a powerful distraction and, you know, powerful sense of community that you can establish, and hopefully you can get into our Discord maybe and continue to build out that community. So I always appreciate stuff like this. There was a lady at training camp who said that, you know, she would listen to us on the way to visit, you know, her family in the hospital who were dealing with some really tough health issues. And it's just like really powerful stuff that, you know, that's kind of the choice. So it means a lot. We always are very appreciative of any comment like this. It really does mean a lot, and makes everything else that we deal with on social media sometimes very, very worth it. So appreciate you, Wyatt. Hopefully you're in a better space now, and hopefully things are going better for you. And like Tyler mentioned, if you ever need anything, definitely message us, and we're happy to talk about anything with you.
Yeah, definitely. Would you like to go up with the follow-ups? Yes.
Yes. Josh with the follow-up. He says, I made your 10 million episode some inappropriate topic, including talking about genitals. I appreciate you guys helping me get through hours of work. So Josh is a doctor, for those who don't know. I know he works a lot of hours, so he always can bring the energy here in a funny way. So I appreciate Josh. His sarcasm in person is a lot better than his sarcasm online, if you can believe it. So Josh has been one of our, you know, supporters from day one, and sometimes it comes in forms like this, but I always appreciate the support nonetheless.
Yeah, Josh was with us very, very early on, and I mean, if you didn't know who Josh was, you did probably during the pandemic. He was very much fighting back and forth with people for a variety of topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great guy. Again, I say it all the time, but the two monitors I use, which makes my job so much easier, I was just gifted from him. So I appreciate that tremendously. He's been a huge supporter of us, very kind to us, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, 100%. Bob Middleton earlier said the only way the Chargers gets to the playoffs is if Minter gets the defense's act together. Can he do it?
I think so. I think they are 85% of the way there. It's a pretty solid group. They've got it mostly figured out. Just get the linebackers in shape, a little bit of health, you know, more with Owe working with everybody. I think they'll be fine. I guess that's kind of where I'm at with like the Texans game. Can the defense find its own way to punch the Texans in the mouth that game and be what
Yeah.
we thought would, like the Steelers game. If that's what kind of ends up happening and the defense goes, oh, F you, I don't care about your defense. Here's ours. It's possible.
Yeah, I think overall, like my concern with the defense would be like in a playoff game against a run heavy team. I would be very concerned about that. But I do think over the next 6 games that the defense can perform at a level that merits a potential playoff game. So, or getting into the playoffs, I should say. The main issue is they need more consistency across the board, specifically from like linebackers and stuff like that we've talked about. So
Yeah.
I think that they can do it. We've seen them do it, which is like you mentioned earlier. We have evidence of them playing at a really high level. It's just got to be more consistent.
Yes. Speaking of consistency, my poop story. Shout out to my poop story.
My
Nothing
goodness.
like being followed by an account with 1 million followers while I'm dropping a deuce on a toilet.
Yep. Wyatt back with another one says things are great now. See you in Discord. I got the creepy Phil Rivers eye mouth picture. Also, I'm an engineer that works a lot of hours to LOL.
Yeah, my friend Matt's an engineer. Engineers running my family, my friend circles. So I respect what you do. I don't know what Steven's laughing at this time, but
Just Wyatt's comment to Josh afterwards that.
yes, Josh will. I can't believe Josh will pop in the middle of something important, possibly, and just be like, joke, and then back to work. But you know what? Maybe that's just what keeps you going, right?
Yeah. JNet sends in that he rarely gets to the live shows, bowling, hockey, the podcast I produce when they want to do it.
Cool.
But congrats on 10 million. We appreciate JNet. He's a very active member in the Discord.
Yes.
So
Yes.
appreciate him jumping in here when he's able to.
What's the secret to bowling? Because I can't do it. I haven't figured that one out.
I took a bowling class in college with some friends of mine from high school. It was so much fun, but the professor was basically just like, yeah, go have fun for an hour. And we would just mess around and find different ways. I have no idea how people do like the spinning thing. Was never able to figure that part out.
No, not at all. What was my question? No, I forget now. Oh, how'd you get an A? Did you have to like write an essay?
It was attendance, and then the last day of the class we had to like write why we liked bowling. It was like we had to write a paragraph basically on why we like bowling.
Sounds like what the 5-star recruits do at Alabama for their classes, just like just their easy schedule stuff. Hey, I love it.
My one of my best friends from high school, his name is Lo Falamaka. He played center for Utah, and he gray shirted and red shirted. So he was a 6-year senior by the end. So he took like 3 bowling classes, a couple of yoga classes, basketball class. Like he had so many PE credits at the end of his college career. Like he could have earned just a degree in PE classes. Like it was crazy. So those 6-year seniors, you know, Cam Rising was there for 7. I can't imagine how many PE classes he took. It's so funny though. But I took a couple PE classes. Like I did take a cycling class in there. It was fun, man. Those PE classes are great. The bowling class though, it was like right in the middle of my day. It was perfect. Like it was just like a nice little like buffer between the stressors of 2 very difficult classes. So if you're in college, planning to go to college, definitely recommend taking a bowling class in college. It's super fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have fun. Let me know what classes you guys took in college. Josh, did you take bowling classes?
I'm gonna guess that the doctor did not take bowling classes.
I know I'm sitting here being like, my other guy was a little different. That's funny. That's funny.
Wyatt says GAC member Charger game and bean up.
It was kind of supposed to be the Steelers game. It just didn't work. Alex has not been with us to a game. You've been with Arjun and I, basically, right?
Yep. We all went to the Rams game.
And
Baker Mayfield was the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. And he was terrible. The whole thing was a mess. And John Taylor had a pick, or no, he had
that was the Mike Williams one-handed catch on the
sideline.
sideline.
Yeah.
Him and McVay like talked about it. It was cool, but
yeah, that was awesome. I'm thinking of going to the Jets game next year if Arjun's still there, which I believe he will be. So possibly Alex will be there. Although I guess that doesn't help Wyatt Earp. Never mind. Unless you're going to that game too.
Yeah, probably not. We'll see. We're hopefully dealing with a newborn during next season. But they play at Seattle, and I love Seattle if it's like in the fall and potentially dealing with baby stuff works. I would love to go there. Because Seattle, that stadium is incredible. The city of Seattle is awesome. So that this season there were not a lot of like road games I was like dying to get to, but next year they have at Seattle, they have at Buffalo, they have at the Jets. Like, not that the Jets are great, but you get to go to New York City.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more attractive road games next year.
Yeah. You really mentioned at Buffalo as a part of that. I'm okay.
Dude, I would love to go see Buffalo and their new stadium next year, and the Bills are good, and they have like 6 Utah players. Like, yeah. Brendan, the San Francisco game is at home at SoFi. So basically it will be red. SoFi Stadium will be red that day.
I don't want to go to Buffalo, but if Steven goes to Buffalo, I think I have to go.
I'm not going to Buffalo if it's in like December. I'm not doing that.
That was my concern. Yeah, like all right.
But if they play at Buffalo in like September, hell yeah, dude, that'd be sick.
Okay, a road game I will probably go to at Rams.
There you go.
I'll go to that one.
There you go.
Oh man,
that's gonna be interesting.
White Herb says, "Let me know when you guys go, guys in San Diego. People hate the Bolts here. I don't know. I don't care.
Enough. We have a lot of listeners in San Diego. I will say that. I don't know if the hatred is as deep as it is made out to be. And when I go to games, like I talk to a lot of people that are from San Diego that stayed with the team or are like coming back to the team. So I don't think the hatred is as deep. I've done several interviews on CBS San Diego, and they have a beat reporter for the Chargers. So I don't think it's as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, it's just that one like Ed Gein Leatherface like wearing guy. What's his name? Kaplan. Yeah. That guy drums it up.
But they've also practiced in San Diego twice now. Like they did the events there this year. Last year they did OTAs with like a military event, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Pendleton.
Yeah. And then they went on the ship.
Yeah. So I do think that, as Jaina points out, I do think that Coach Harbaugh is like making a very conscious effort of going back to San Diego.
White Herb says it's like being in a secret club where we can't talk out loud. People will hate them here, hate them. So we have to be quiet and root in silence. LOL. That's how I feel at school. No, as a teacher, as the adult, I'm just like, I'm a Chargers fan. Boo. So it was different. When I was in middle school, everyone was a Chargers fan, but not the case anymore.
No, definitely not. I felt like it was so cool. I was the only Chargers fan that I knew growing up, and we'd always do like jersey days at middle school, and I had my powder blue LT jersey, and all the other people wearing ugly orange and navy blue Broncos jerseys. I just felt like I was like the coolest kid in school because of that. So
that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Good for you for sticking it out.
And then I got a powder blue Eric Weddle jersey, which was like extra cool for Utah people. So it was fun.
I was almost a Saints fan.
You were almost a Saints fan?
I was trying to pick a team, right? I'm like, where do I go? What direction do I go here? Because my dad was a Raiders fan, and I wasn't doing that. So the only other option I would have gone for are the Saints because of like Reggie Bush and USC, local USC stuff. So that was my
pick.
Or perhaps Seahawks.
And they were obviously really good at that time too.
Yeah.
They won the Super Bowl in 07? 06?
Sure.
Yeah. I was almost a Seahawks fan. So we have a lot of family in Seattle. And not that their uniform was like really cool, but they just were not very good when I was a kid. Like they were fine, but it was more so just like a family thing.
Yeah.
And I like you, I just didn't want to be the same old Broncos fan like other people where I lived, and I didn't want to do like a whole national thing. So I was debating like Seahawks, Chargers, like a little maybe bit of like Ravens. But they were like, I was like, they're super far away. I'm never going to go to Baltimore. So that's another main reason why I chose San Diego.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, them, and then obviously Pete Carroll when he went to the Seahawks or the Chargers, and two of those teams won a Super Bowl within like 3 years of me deciding Chargers. And the other team is the one I still root for.
Yeah, the Chargers were so close, man.
They were so
It's
close.
so cool.
I
But
know. It was so
what it
cool
is.
to be a Chargers fan. Now it's something.
Josh says Kaplan Gak YouTube collab show. No, I refuse. I refuse.
No, thank you. No, there's not a super chat you could send me to get a show with Kaplan.
And then Wyatt says that I'm an LDS hipster kid.
Yeah,
Thank you.
better than an LSD hipster kid.
Yes. Yes. All right, you guys. That is going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate you for jumping in the chat. Make sure like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff does continue to help grow our show. We will see you next week for our Raiders preview. And then, like I mentioned, I'll be gone for Thanksgiving. I'm back in Utah with my family. So we will not have another opportunity until post Raiders game. So 2 shows next week, but you know, it is what it is. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.